Nowadays, if you're in fandom spaces, shipping with characters inside of, outside of, or from different shows entirely, or even self-insert shipping or 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 shipping, is relatively normalized in the space. I know it's been a deep-seated part of my experience with fandom and fandom spaces, on or offline. I grew up on Tumblr in the early 2010s after all. I probably know more about characters that I have never experienced the media from just by seeing my friends shipping them and seeing it come across my Tumblr dashboard. But when exactly did shipping start? Arguably, fanfiction itself has been around forever, because things like the Iliad and the Odyssey and even Dante's Divine Comedy or Paradise Lost are all considered fanfiction. And public reaction to media and fandom isn't anything new. This whole video idea sort of sprang up from reading about what happened to Arthur Doyle when he had killed off Sherlock in the early 1890s. He got tired of writing him and without rhyme or reason killed him off, and that was received by public backlash. Readers at the time cursed his decisions, wore mourning clothes to mourn Sherlock's death, and even threatened to cause financial ruin for their publisher, Strand Magazine, if Sherlock and his novels were not brought back, because over 20,000 subscribers canceled their subscription to the Strand. But at this time, a public reaction of this kind had never happened before. After all, this is years and years before Star Trek went to the lengths they did to try and save their show. This was before the 1900s, after all. And it took 3 years of public outcry for Doyle to start writing Sherlock again. Which, again, if you've been in fandom spaces, not a whole lot has changed. Up until I believe like April of this year, there's been a shrine for Ianto from Torchwood, so grieving a fictional character is definitely serious business. And if you didn't know, they're not getting rid of it because nobody is grieving Ianto anymore. It's actually because the bridge it is on is a safety hazard. It is structurally unsound and rusting, and they have to clear the memorial away to do work on it. So the shrine mourning Ianto from Torchwood could have outlasted the bridge itself if they had let it. But this video is about the history of shipping, so let's head back to that. Shipping in and of itself predates the internet. Fandom itself, in many ways, has actually existed since before that was invented. A lot of what we know and love from fandom today, like shipping, actually comes from the pre-internet Star Trek fandom. I found this post on r/askhistorians by a user called Mimic of Modes that explained in length how fandom in the times of pre-internet Star Trek interacted with each other. Because this is even before my time of early fandom. These early shippers would mail their fanfiction to each other like snail mail, or they would bring it to conventions and photocopy it and distribute it that way. And these would be called zines, or magazines, but zines, which we still have to this day. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to collect artists and authors and organizers and all of this and even send them out than it used to be. But these guys were snail mailing their fics to each other. They'd even organize their own fandom meetups or smaller conventions when general sci-fi ones weren't available. And here they would discuss their ships and fanfiction. This user then goes on to remind us that these spaces were extremely male-centered at the time, but there were still women who had interest in fandom as well. So these new fanfiction and fanart-focused spaces became a safe space in fandom for women. I would also assume this included other genders and identities as well, but it's not specified in this research that I've done. So when everything was against them, they made spaces for themselves to create pieces of art that was theirs to make in these safe spaces. Star Trek is also the fandom that invented the Mary Sue stereotype in fanfiction, because even then, it leaned towards romantic or sexual themes. So while Kirk and Spock were the most popular pairing of all time, really, they are the grandfathers of fanfiction. They would also write lay stories, or what we would call self-inserts or 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 shipping. But they would have these like Mary Sue type characters in a relationship with major canon characters. It's kind of insane to think that something that was the basis of the beginning of fanfiction is still happening this day. Something that was happening in the 1960s is still happening in 2026. Some of these pre-internet fandoms saw the rise of fanfiction and shippers like 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺, 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 and 𝙺, which I really definitely understand that one, and Highlander. 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 and 𝙺 actually helped blossom the popularity of slash fiction, a term we even use today for ships of the same sex. Though we've added more terms since then, slash fiction is also a term borrowed from the Japanese fandom scene, which would make yaoi slash and yuri fem slash. Kirk, Spock, or Spirk, and 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 also were the couples that coined the phrase OTP, or one true pairing, something that I've realized has kind of not been used in modern fandom anymore, but it used to be like the main way to say this is the ship that I really like. We also had things like bro TP or OT3 for friendships that were like the big platonic pairing, or the thruples. We also had the term no TP for the ship that you just really didn't like. But we tried to be respectful about it, but that was your like do not interact at the time was called no TP. Fandom as a whole didn't get the term shipping or shipper until around 1995, which is wild to me because I know personally that there's Good Omen fanfiction that dates back to when the novel was released. Because our ineffable husbands used to be A/C back in the day, because there were so few ships then that it was easy to differentiate them with the A/C as opposed to being like ineffable husbands or Zero Crow. And now look at our angel and demon being one of the most ships on Tumblr from time to time. But back to the origin of shipper/shipping. It started with the X-Files, because people really wanted Mulder and Scully to be in a romantic relationship. Or MSR, which was Mulder-Scully romance. These fans would call themselves relationshippers, which eventually made its way to being shortened to shippers. But shipping in fandom, if you've made it this far, congratulations, it's a long way to just get this description, but shipping in fandom means just that. It's the act of enjoying, creating, or supporting a particular romantic relationship formed of or formed from a piece of media. Be it single shipping or multi-shipping, that's when you're fine with shipping multiple pairings within a show or media that involve similar characters or the same characters, especially if you like them the same amount. But if you like to enjoy, create, read, moderate zines for, talking in a group chat about, make edits for, the list is endless. But if you like a ship, you're a shipper. But that does not mean these characters actually have to be together in canon. That's what the AUs, the fanfiction, the art, role-playing with friends, that should be enough to fulfill the shipping needs of a non-canon shipper. I'd be wrong to not also explain the long-retired tags that used to be used to identify certain types of fanfiction. One being the citrus scale, which was popular within the mid to late 2000s and would go from orange, lime, lemon, and grapefruit. Nowadays, fanfiction is rated using the MPAA scale, which is the same rating system that is used by movies, TV, and video games. But orange would be what G or PG-13 is, lime would be PG-13, and lemon would be not safe for work, and grapefruit would be something that would be truly X-rated. So it'd be kind of like the extreme version of explicit that we use nowadays. One unfortunate fact that is the first Kirk and Spock stories were not immediately accepted by all Star Trek fans. This is because fanfiction and slash actually violated the obscenity laws at the time. So why do we like shipping and fanfiction and fandom in general? Well, fanfiction can actually be seen as a modern-day folktale of sorts, and folktales are common currency of community, of culture, open to reinterpretations and reworkings and storytelling that's passed from one person to one person and can be done so for generations. It's a space to stretch your legs creatively. After all, how many people do we know who became successful from starting in fandom spaces? Look at Heated Rivalry right now. Authors, actors, animators, illustrators, voice actors, even people like myself, cosplayers, who are now lucky enough to make a career out of something in cosplay, pop culture, fandom, fanfiction, and fandom in the modern age. Something that was unfathomable 30 years ago. This is something that is ever-changing and unifying, and you can make a community now, like 2 or more people who just happen to look at each other on screen for like 0.5 seconds, and you can get an entire community rolling just because it's so easy to get the word out, as opposed to snail mailing your fanfiction to each other back 30 years ago. It's not 30 years ago, wow. Like in, you know, early Star Trek days. And that's super insane to think about. So while shipping had started gathering people long before the internet had even come to exist, it is insane to believe that it is still something that brings people together to this day. So even when there's infighting about this or that or the other reason, it's still important to remember that we're all enjoying something that brings us joy. And as long as it's not hurting you or somebody else, or, you know, is illegal, then it's something to be celebrated. Fanfiction and shipping and this community has been something that has been around for so long and survived in fandom for this long. It's just really fucking cool, you know? So sometimes I just think that when we as modern people are enjoying our fandom, it's cool to go back and see what even started it so we were able to have fandom as it is on TikTok and YouTube, on Tumblr, and can enjoy it and talk about it as such. Just remember that people used to have to go and meet the people in their town and, you know, have the little tiny meetups or conventions and photocopy their fanfiction and pass it around. I, as a child in, you know, middle school, used to have a journal where me and my friends would roleplay in, and that was our way of actually like writing during class. Definitely not productive, but it was very good for, you know, a middle schooler. But like that was a thing that we used to do because we didn't have laptops in class like a lot of people do now, or we didn't have TikTok or, you know, the ability to message on Discord. We had Skype, and even before that we had MSN. So like it's just one of those things where fandom is always evolving, but it is very cool to see that shipping is still kind of at the forefront of it all. You know, it is /reader or 𝙻𝙸𝙽𝙺 shipping, or if it is an actual canon ship, or it's a rare pair, which we're losing the texts on rare pairs. Like, please stop saying that that's weird. Rare pairs are the backbone of fanfiction, and we need to keep writing it. Something that I'm thinking about as I'm, you know, getting older, getting more into fandom again, because I had just kind of put it off for a couple years, and now I'm actively back into it. I have made my career about pop culture and fandom. Little pieces that are so cool to think about. Like, I didn't know when I was watching the Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller Starsky and Hutch that it was the backbone of slash fiction. I mean, the original was, but like even then they would know this when they go and make a remake. Like, you can tell. Now that I know this, I can tell when watching it. Or how Star Trek has also led into that, and Star Trek has gotten a lot more openly queer than it was back in the day, and that's super cool because they know that that's their fandom. I don't know, I just hope. I just think fandom's cool, guys, and I think it's not as serious as people make it seem. But I hope you enjoyed this little tiny deep dive into the history of shipping and fanfiction in general. If you like this, be sure to like and comment and subscribe. Let me know if you wanna what fanfiction you're reading right now for what ship, or if you haven't ever read it, what you might be interested in looking into. I don't know, let's just talk fanfiction in the comments. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification to know when I post more videos like this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.